For the last several decades, the debate over God's existence has been framed by modern science. But today, a 2,000-year-old logic is now being used to challenge the core assumptions of the secular world. This challenge targets scientism, the specific belief that if a concept cannot be proven through physics or chemistry, it has no place in reality. This view was popularized by the New Atheists. Richard Dawkins helped build a movement on the premise that religion is simply a failed scientific hypothesis. Physicists like Lawrence Krauss took it further, arguing that the laws of the universe leave no room for a creator. Then, philosopher Edward Feser published 5 proofs of the existence of God. The book prompted theologians like Matthew Levering to claim that Feser had successfully dismantled the intellectual basis for modern atheism. The response was a heated exchange between philosophers and secular historians like Richard Carrier. They aren't arguing about scripture. They are debating the fundamental laws that govern existence itself. Understanding this conflict requires setting aside quantum mechanics for a moment to look at a simple cup of coffee. Consider a coffee cup sitting on a desk. If you remove the desk, the cup falls. This illustrates what Aristotle called change. In this context, change refers to the process of a potential state becoming an actual state. For example, the cup has the potential to be 3 feet off the ground. Philosophers distinguish between 2 types of change. A linear series happens over time, like coffee slowly cooling, but a hierarchical series happens simultaneously, in a single instant. The cup is actualized by the desk by the floor, and the floor by the foundation. If this chain continues downward forever without a bottom anchor, the system loses its support, leaving no explanation for why the cup is off the ground. Because the cup is supported, Feser argues the chain must terminate in a primary uncaused cause, a source that has the inherent power to act without needing to be acted upon itself. This leads to the most common atheist counterargument. If everything has a cause, what caused God? Feser argues this objection misses the definition of the uncaused cause. He describes it as pure actuality. It has no potentials to be realized, which means it cannot be changed or caused by anything else. These rules of causality were first mapped by Aristotle in ancient Greece, forming the basis for how we understand the physical world. Thomas Aquinas later adapted this logic to form the core of classical theism, arguing that reason alone points to a singular, necessary foundation. From this perspective, asking what caused God is like asking what holds up the floor. The argument defines God as the very thing that stops the infinite fall. If this uncaused cause exists outside of physics, it raises a question. How can it interact with the physical world to perform a miracle? Feser uses the analogy of a director's cut. Imagine the natural order of the universe is like the original theatrical release of a film, complete and consistent on its own. A miracle occurs when the director splices a new scene into the film. It doesn't break the celluloid's rules, it elevates the existing story. This means classical theism is positioned outside the scope of science, rather than in direct competition with it. This distinction remains the center of the modern debate. Critics like Richard Carrier argue that Feser relies on pre-modern assumptions that have been rendered obsolete by our current understanding of spacetime. Feser's defenders maintain that skeptics are attempting to use the tools of physics to solve a problem that exists in the realm of logic. The debate exposes a conflict over the ultimate limits of human observation. While science explains the images on the screen, Feser's proofs ask the viewer to consider the projector itself. This ongoing war between Feser and his critics highlights a boundary that data alone cannot cross. It forces us to ask whether physics is the final word on reality, or if there is a layer of logic that science simply cannot reach.